She had stopped crying months ago. Not because the pain had faded, but because there was no time left for tears. Every morning felt like drowning in slow motion. The screaming, the endless demands, the silent collapse behind closed bathroom doors. She was disappearing, piece by piece, and no one seemed to notice. But on an ordinary Tuesday, in a place she never expected, someone saw her. Really saw her. What that stranger said would crack open everything she had been holding together. And the choice that followed would break her heart while saving her life. If you've ever felt invisible in your own home, this story will reach into the deepest part of you. Watch until the end. You need to hear what happened next. Sarah hadn't looked at herself in the mirror for more than 3 seconds in weeks. Not really looked. Just quick glances to make sure she didn't have spit up on her shoulder or dark circles that screamed her exhaustion to the world. But even those circles had become permanent, etched into her 34-year-old face like battle scars no one acknowledged. She moved through her days in a fog so thick she sometimes forgot what month it was. March? April? It didn't matter. Every day bled into the next with the same relentless rhythm. Wake up exhausted, push through exhausted, collapse exhausted. Repeat. The kitchen counter was covered in dishes from yesterday, or maybe the day before. Her 5-year-old, Emma, was screaming about the wrong color bowl again, and the baby, Leo, had been crying for 40 minutes straight. Sarah stood at the sink, hands gripping the cold porcelain edge, trying to remember what it felt like to be a person instead of a machine that produced meals, wiped tears, and said, "It's okay," when nothing felt okay. Her husband, Mark, had left for work at 6 without saying goodbye. He never said goodbye anymore. He just left, grateful for the escape she could never have. She felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the one that had become her constant companion. Her therapist called it anxiety. Sarah called it drowning, because that's what it felt like. Water filling her lungs slowly, day after day, and everyone around her acting like she was fine, like she should be fine, like this was just motherhood and she had signed up for it. So what was there to complain about? She wanted to scream that she hadn't signed up for this version, the one where she ceased to exist entirely. But who would listen? Emma threw the bowl across the kitchen. It shattered against the floor, milk and cereal spraying across the tiles Sarah had mopped just last night. The baby's crying intensified, and Sarah felt something inside her crack. Not break, not yet, just crack. A hairline fracture in whatever was left holding her together. She didn't yell, she didn't cry. She just stood there, staring at the mess, wondering if she could walk out the door and never come back. The thought terrified her, not because she might do it, but because it felt so appealing. Later that morning, after she had cleaned the kitchen, fed both kids, and strapped them into the car, Sarah drove to the pediatrician's office for Leo's 6-month checkup. She was 20 minutes late because Emma had refused to put on shoes, and Leo had a blowout diaper right as they were leaving. The receptionist gave her a tight smile that said, "We're busy and you're late." Without saying anything at all, Sarah mumbled an apology and sat in the waiting room, bouncing Leo on her knee while Emma kicked the chair in front of her. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. Other mothers sat around her, scrolling through their phones, looking put together in ways Sarah couldn't comprehend. How did they do it? How did they look rested and wear clean clothes and smile at their children like it wasn't taking everything they had just to breathe? Sarah felt like an imposter, a broken version of what a mother should be. She pulled Leo closer, inhaling his baby smell, trying to find comfort in it. But even that felt distant now, like she was watching herself from somewhere far away. A woman sat down next to her. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with silver hair pulled back in a loose bun and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. She glanced at Sarah, then at Emma, who was now pulling books off the waiting room shelf. The woman didn't say anything at first, just watched. Sarah braced herself for judgment, for the comments about discipline or control that strangers loved to offer. But the woman's expression was different, soft, sad, almost. Then the woman leaned closer, her voice quiet enough that only Sarah could hear. "You look like you're disappearing." Sarah's breath caught. She turned to look at the woman, surprised by the directness, the accuracy. The woman continued, her gaze steady and unflinching. "I know that look. I wore it for years. That look that says you're doing everything right and dying inside at the same time." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes, the first real tears she'd felt in months. This stranger saw her, actually saw her, and it hurt more than the invisibility had. Sarah tried to respond, but her throat tightened. The woman reached out and gently touched her arm. "It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say this is too much. It's okay to need help. But you have to say it out loud, honey, because no one is going to rescue you. You have to rescue yourself." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. No one is going to rescue you. She had been waiting for someone to notice, to step in, to fix it. But no one was coming. Mark wasn't coming. Her mother wasn't coming. Her friends who had slowly disappeared into their own lives weren't coming. It was just her, and she was drowning. Before Sarah could process what the woman had said, a nurse called her name. She stood up mechanically, gathering Leo and corralling Emma, her mind spinning. The woman gave her a small, sad smile as Sarah walked past. "You deserve to be more than what's left over," the woman said softly. Sarah nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and followed the nurse down the hallway. But those words echoed in her head, louder than Emma's complaints, louder than Leo's fussing, louder than the constant noise that filled every corner of her life. "You deserve to be more than what's left over." The appointment passed in a blur. The doctor said Leo was healthy, thriving, meeting all his milestones. Sarah smiled and nodded and answered questions, playing the part of the competent mother while her mind replayed the encounter in the waiting room. When they left, she buckled the kids into the car and sat in the driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. The woman's words had opened something inside her, something she had locked away because it was too dangerous to acknowledge. The truth that she was losing herself. The truth that she couldn't keep going like this. The truth that something had to change. But change meant making choices she wasn't ready to make. Change meant admitting she couldn't do it all. Change meant asking for help, setting boundaries, possibly facing anger or disappointment from the people who depended on her being everything to everyone. Change meant choosing herself, and she had spent so long putting herself last that the idea felt selfish, wrong, unforgivable. That night, after the kids were finally asleep, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed and cried. Not the silent tears she sometimes shed in the shower, but deep, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere she had forgotten existed. Mark was already asleep, oblivious to the storm happening 3 feet away from him. She thought about the woman in the waiting room, about her words, about the choice she was facing. And she realized with a clarity that terrified her that she was standing at a crossroads. One path led to more of the same, to continuing until there was nothing left of her. The other path led somewhere unknown, somewhere that required her to fight for herself in ways she didn't know if she had the strength for. If you've ever felt this way, if you've ever stood at that crossroads wondering if you have the courage to choose yourself, leave a comment below. Tell me your story. You're not alone in this, even though it feels that way. And before you go, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next in Sarah's story will change everything. The decision she makes will break her heart, but it might be the only thing that saves her life. Sarah woke up the next morning with a decision already forming in her chest. It felt heavy and wrong and necessary all at once. She had barely slept, her mind turning over the woman's words again and again. You have to rescue yourself. No one is coming. She looked at Mark, sleeping peacefully beside her. His face relaxed in a way hers never was anymore, and felt a surge of resentment so strong it scared her. He got to leave. He got to be tired at work and come home and complain about his day and then check out, scrolling through his phone while she handled bedtime, nighttime wake-ups, morning chaos. He got to still be a person. She had become a function. She got up before the kids woke and sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee she didn't remember making. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that only existed in those stolen moments before the day exploded into demands and noise. Sarah pulled out her phone and did something she hadn't done in months. She texted her sister, Lauren, 3 words: "I need help." Her finger hovered over the send button for a full minute before she pressed it. The message disappeared into the void, and Sarah felt her heart hammering. Asking for help felt like admitting failure, like proving everyone right who had ever doubted she could handle this. Lauren's response came within seconds. "I'm coming over today." Sarah's throat tightened. She hadn't expected it to be that easy. She hadn't expected anyone to actually show up. But Lauren did. She arrived that afternoon with groceries and a determined expression that reminded Sarah of their mother. She didn't ask questions, didn't make Sarah explain. She just started cleaning the kitchen while Sarah fed Leo, and when Emma had a meltdown over a broken crayon, Lauren handled it calmly, without judgment, without making Sarah feel like she was doing it wrong. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Lauren sat across from Sarah at the kitchen table. "How long have you been drowning?" she asked quietly. Sarah looked down at her hands, fingers twisting together. "I don't know. Months. Maybe since Leo was born. Maybe longer." Lauren reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah's voice cracked when she answered. "Because I'm supposed to be able to do this. Because everyone else seems fine. Because admitting I can't handle it feels like admitting I'm a bad mother." Lauren's expression softened with something that looked like pain. "You're not a bad mother, Sarah. You're an exhausted human being who's been trying to do the impossible alone. And you don't have to keep doing it alone." Sarah felt tears sliding down her cheeks, the kind she had been holding back for so long they felt like relief. Lauren stayed that night, sleeping on the couch, helping with the morning routine. And when she left, she made Sarah promise to call her every day, to accept help, to stop pretending everything was fine. But asking her sister for help was only the first step, and Sarah knew it. The harder conversation was waiting for her. The one she had been avoiding because it felt too big, too confrontational, too likely to break something that was already fragile. She waited until Friday night, after the kids were asleep, and found Mark in the living room watching TV. Her hands were shaking as she sat down next to him. "We need to talk," she said. He glanced at her, then back at the screen. "Can it wait until commercial?" Something inside Sarah snapped. No, it can't wait. She turned off the TV. Mark looked at her, surprised and annoyed. "Sarah, what?" But she cut him off, her voice steadier than she expected. "I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time, and I need you to hear me, really hear me." He blinked, his expression shifting from annoyance to confusion to something that might have been concern. "What do you mean?" Sarah took a breath and let it all out. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the feeling of disappearing, the resentment, the fear. The moment in the waiting room when a stranger saw her more clearly than her own husband had in months. Mark listened, his face changing as she spoke. When she finished, there was silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. Then he said, "I didn't know it was that bad." Sarah almost laughed, but it came out as a bitter sound. "How could you not know? I've been falling apart right in front of you." He looked down at his hands, shame creeping into his expression. "I thought you had it handled." "You always have it handled." And there it was, the assumption that had been killing her, that because she kept going, because she kept the house running and the kids fed and everything looking fine from the outside, that she was fine. Sarah's voice was quiet but firm when she spoke again. "I need things to change. I need you to be a real partner, not just someone who lives here. I need you to take night wake-ups. I need you to handle bedtime. I need you to see what needs to be done and do it without me asking. And I need to start therapy again, which means I need time. Actual time away from the kids where I'm not trying to squeeze it in between naps." She paused, her heart pounding. "And if you can't do that, if you can't step up, then I need to make harder decisions about what this marriage looks like." Mark's eyes widened. "Are you saying you'd leave?" Sarah felt the weight of the question, the fear and possibility it carried. "I'm saying I can't keep disappearing. I won't. I deserve more than what's left over, and so do our kids. They deserve a mother who's present, not someone who's too exhausted and resentful to actually be there." The words felt dangerous and liberating at the same time. Mark was quiet for a long time. Then slowly, he nodded. "Okay, tell me what you need me to do." It wasn't perfect. Mark didn't transform overnight into the partner Sarah needed. But he started trying. He took the night shift with Leo on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He handled bedtime on Wednesdays. He started noticing when the dishes piled up and actually doing something about it. And Sarah started therapy again. Sitting in that quiet office once a week and slowly, painfully, learning how to set boundaries, how to ask for what she needed, how to exist as more than just someone's mother or wife. Months later, Sarah ran into the woman from the waiting room at a grocery store. The woman smiled when she saw her. A knowing smile. "You look different," she said. Sarah realized it was true. She still had dark circles. She was still tired. Motherhood was still hard, often overwhelmingly so. But something fundamental had shifted. She had stopped waiting to be rescued and started building her own lifeboat. "Thank you," Sarah said. meaning it more deeply than the woman could know. For seeing me. The woman squeezed her arm gently. Keep seeing yourself, honey. That's the part that matters. Sarah walked to her car, carrying that moment with her like a gift. She thought about all the women out there, still drowning, still waiting, still disappearing inch by inch. And she hoped they would find their own waiting room moment, their own crossroads, their own courage to choose themselves. Because motherhood was beautiful and brutal and sacred and suffocating all at once, and pretending otherwise helped no one. The truth was messy and hard and absolutely necessary. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with what choice you're facing right now. And remember, you are more than what's left over. You always have been.